That's it. So now that you know how it works, let's talk about how you'll discern the difference between your intuition and the other stuff. And it's really easy. I've got a quick, easy way for you to separate the good from the other stuff. It's through the 3 C's. I like to make these things easy so you can apply them quickly and use them right away. So the first C in true intuition, compared to this other stuff, is clarity. Now, I realize that intuition sometimes comes in a symbolic form, like seeing numbers or animals or hearing songs. And yes, that has a symbolic nature to it. But there's also a clarity to that. You hear the song, you see the numbers. It doesn't feel shady or muddled. Intuition has a very clear quality to it. So it feels right. It feels solid in a certain way. There's something that just sounds true, that rings true, that feels good in that intuition. So the first test in intuition, in true intuition, is that there's clarity to it. It's clear. Now, let's take an example. If you hear a message from your inner voice that sounds something like, it's time to maybe make some changes, and maybe you should quit your job. It's not a very clear message, and that's maybe more of some fear or some anxiety, or maybe feeling a little bit out of place at your job, or maybe just going through a phase where you're feeling a little awkward. But that message wasn't very clear. It was sort of indecisive and kind of warbly, and sometimes that is the kind of messages that we hear. Now, if your intuition is communicating to you, you'll hear something very clear like, be patient, or you're loved, or wait, or put out the application. It's a very clear message. Oftentimes it's very concise, but there's that clear nature that's there. That's how you'll know it's your true intuition. It's clear. Now, the next C in discerning true intuition from this other stuff is that it's consistent. There's a consistent nature. As I mentioned with the clairvoyance and the numbers, if you see 111, and then you see 111, and then you see 111, that's consistency. So you know that that's true. Our souls don't tend to change their story. It's consistent. So if you get a message one day, oh, you need to quit your job, and the next day it's, no, you're going to stay at this job for 5 years, and the next day it's, well, you'll be here another 3 weeks. The next day you hear, oh, yeah. That's not clear. That's not intuition. That's just some kind of insecurity or fear or uncertainty that's coming up. So your intuition will be very clear and very consistent. And day after day, there's a consistency to that. Now, there's some flexibility within our intuition. So perhaps one day you receive a message, or you feel just deeply within yourself. You hear your inner voice say you're a healer. That's a pretty broad term. So if one day you feel drawn to a healing modality like Reiki, and a few weeks later you feel drawn to something like working with crystals and stones, that's still consistent within this healing mission that you have. So there's flexibility within that. If one day you listen and you hear you're a healer, and the next day you hear, well, no, you're not a healer at all, you could never do that, you're just here to wander around and be lost, that's not consistent, and that doesn't come from intuition. Intuition is very affirmative. Even if it's about a sensitive topic or something difficult like ending a phase in life or leaving a relationship or making a change with a job, there's still a consistent nature there, and it's still loving, and it's still focused on cooperation and truth and goodness. So even within those difficult areas, there's that vein of truth, but also it comes from that place of love. So intuition is clear and it's consistent. Now, the final test with our intuition is that it has a compassionate voice to it. There's a caring nature to our intuition. And that's pretty easy to understand. Your intuition doesn't judge you. An intuitive message will never be condescending. You'll never be insulted by your soul. That's not what our souls do. Your intuition will have a very loving tone to it. It will come from a place of compassion, even when dealing with difficult situations, even when there's hurt or there's been some kind of harm or judgment. Intuition will guide us to find compassion, to treat ourselves with respect, and to always practice that sense of self-love. So there's always compassion within our intuition. You'll find too that these true intuitive messages are not about what they are thinking. It's about what you can do to really better yourself and to enhance your growth and understanding. It's really, intuition is about being good to you, being the best you. So it's compassionate, it's caring, because your soul does care about you. And that's important because it helps you know the difference. Any message that's judgmental or that's negative, just toss it out, because it's not intuition and you don't need it. You don't need that negativity. It'll just weigh you down. So don't pay attention. So intuition, it's clear, it's consistent, and it's compassionate and caring. Compassionate caring. We'll make that just one word so that it goes with the 3 C's. Clear, compassionate, and consistent. That's the way that intuition works. That's how you'll know the difference between intuition and the other stuff that's out there.